atmosphere at Bryn Mawr too, compared to like what I've heard from other programs. It's an environment in which like I feel comfortable and um, feel like there's room for me to grow as a player, and it's not just, oh, you're coming in with a certain skill set, like this is the only skill set you're going to have, like we're not going to develop that at all. It's just like what you come in with is what you are going to be stuck with for 4 years, and like that's not the case at all. I'm a vastly different player than I was my freshman year in so many ways, and I think that's really special, is that like you're given those opportunities to grow in different ways in this program.
For me, I think it's something that like I never even thought about, but the best thing is like I'm a planner, and I love the fact that like we don't have a men's team to compete with or anything, so we have so much flexibility, and Paul is able to like give us our schedules, like our practice schedules, months in advance, where like my friends at other colleges, they find out weekly, right? So like Monday rolls around and they get their weekly schedule. Like that's not how Bryn Mawr works. We know we're going to have this time slot. Like we know we're practicing then, we know we're doing lift then, like, and if something does come up last minute, hey, we can't be on the turf, we got the grass. So just kind of like the flexibility, the resources, and like definitely planning is, I would say, very unique. And I appreciate that a lot.
Also, because we are a smaller department, I think you get a sense of like who the other athletes are, and also like who the other coaches and administrators are. Like I don't think there's another program, I'm sure there is some, maybe there is somewhere, but I think it's really unique about like how our athletic director knows the name of every athlete in the department, and she'll like walk by you when you're going out to a practice or something and say like, hey, how was that thing you had over the weekend that you were talking about last week when I was watching you guys like practice on the field. And or the college president, Kim Cassidy, like she's at every single one of our games in the fall. She's at field hockey's game before us and volleyball's game in between, and is there at the gate after we're coming off the field to say like, hey, great game, you guys played really well, you looked great out there. And just a sense that like the people who are helping to make this environment possible are like not just invested on it on like the premise that it's their job to do so, it's that they genuinely care about all the athletes that are in the department.
So Anna Miller, tell us, let's see, these are good questions. Here's a good one. Tell us about whether or not the team carries on special traditions or pregame routines that connect the players to the history of the program. What sorts of things do we do as a group in your eyes that are sort of rooting you in the team?
Okay. Well, we do the same cheer before we play every game, and it's bread knots, and it's great. And and my memory is not the best. So I'm trying to think. That was like the defining thing for me, was like we do the same cheer before every game, and coming in and seeing like the upperclassmen are like, oh, this is what we do. We all go get dinner after our practices, and we get together to go explore their campuses on the weekends and those sorts of things. So I don't know if there's any like long-term like, oh, it's been 30 years and we've always done this, whatever. But coming in and feeling like there was already a pattern that I could follow and fall in place with was really cool.
Yeah. Anna, let's keep you going and tell us, since you most recently made this transition, how would you describe play in the Centennial? What's your experience this year adapting to college soccer?
Yeah, so in my experience, my high school team was super emotionally invested, and we were kind of like a family because of the amount of time we spent together. And in contrast, my club team probably played at a higher skill level. And college soccer for me was like a combination of those two things. So like games in the Centennial Conference are always competitive and super emotionally charged and really, really fun. And so that was kind of something that I didn't expect, and it was a great surprise.
Yes, nothing like conference play. And let's see, Carlie, hang on. I'm going to bring Carlie in on that one, and then Logan real quick. Oh God, hang on. Who put the old guy in charge of the technology here, people? Here we go. Go ahead. Want to add to that?
Yeah, it's really, like Anna said, it's a really competitive environment, and we can play the same team. We obviously play the same set of teams every year and with relative similarity in terms of like when we play them, but it's not a given what like the same game against Johns Hopkins is going to look like every year. It's not a given what the game against Washington is going to look like. So there's always something new. There's always something different. And it's so cool that we have, I think 6 teams out of the 11 in the conference got bids to the national tournament. I think that tells you something about the level of play that you're going to get in this conference, where you're always going to be challenged and tested and forced to grow as a player because of how quality your opponents are going to be.
What you got?
I think that the one big thing for me compared to my friends in their conferences is that our games aren't that far away. I feel like that's another thing I didn't think about. Some of my friends, like their conference games will be like 6-hour drives, 7-hour drives, where they're missing the whole weekend. And I really, really like that we're able to have weekday games and we don't have to play double headers. A lot of my friends are playing Saturday, Sunday because they have to drive that far. So that's just like, I feel like different from what everyone else said. And like, that's something I didn't think about. And just like being closer together is really convenient, like for school and homework.
Cool. So I wanted to mix in a few questions that were sort of aimed specifically at me, and just share a couple of things. So one is, and I think this should really be the first and foremost question in any sort of youth player's mind as they're trying to figure out how to navigate the recruiting process and the college search process. And the question was, what are your typical requirements that you're looking for in a recruit? And I think there's a couple of like just non-negotiables and things that I think unveil the brutal reality of the business that we're in. And make no mistake, we are a mission-driven business. And you can't separate the two, right? We have this lofty goal of educating citizens and people who can contribute in myriad ways to our society, and be productive and positive, members of whatever community they move on to live in. But at the end of the day, we also have bills to pay and, soccer coaches' salaries to take care of and stuff like that. So, those realities are there. So I think it's a combination of things. The number one thing we're looking for, right, is just sort of minimum technical ability. The top priority that I have is to make sure that this player can come in and make our team better. And that generally looks like the shortest answer to that question from a soccer standpoint is we want to have the best ball handling team at every position. So we want to have center backs who are better ball handlers than the opponent's center backs or all the other center backs in the league. And they still have to be excellent defenders. They still have to sort of do all that other stuff. But that's the area where we want to have, the best ball handling center backs comfortable under pressure. And Grace is a good example of that, because she, as she sort of hinted at earlier, a little hesitantly, she will be playing center back here. But I'm going to ask her if I can find her quick enough.
Coach, we can also unmute ourselves.
Can you do that? Is that
yes?
Okay, I didn't know because I had everybody muted. All right, cool. So Grace, what position do you typically play for your Keystone team?
Either defensive mid or offensive mid. Mostly, throughout my life, I've played offensive mid. Never defense.
Right. So here's the thing. When we go to watch Grace play, and we met her when she was pretty young, every time I go out to watch her play, she plays on this really excellent Keystone team, right, out in Western Pennsylvania and Central Pennsylvania. And every time I watch this team play, the game's back and forth, and it's a track meet, and it's fun to watch. And there's a bunch of Division I kids in that team, and it's, it's all good. And then whenever Grace is on the field, the game comes to a screeching halt. It gets stuck in the opponent's half, and the Keystone team never has to back up. And what I always thought was really interesting is every time I'm watching her play, it wasn't necessarily, she's a very competent attacking central midfielder. There's no question about that. But what happened was she's a better defender than the other kids that would play that position in her team. And so their high pressing worked better, and they didn't end up chasing the ball back to their own end line. And so I'm looking at that and I'm going, wow, we got a kid here who can, play a through ball, who can handle the ball, who's comfortable under pressure. And she's got some defensive chops that really set her apart in a really outstanding team. So that kind of highlights how important being comfortable with the ball is. So that's our number one thing. Then after that, right, it's great. So you have to have, if we can't get you in, all of this is moved anyway. So we start checking grades pretty early. Some of you are 2021s and you've already submitted transcripts to us, maybe even last summer at the end of your sophomore year. So we check in on that stuff a lot. We look at those things and we're very, very concerned about admissibility and making sure that we're only dealing with students who are going to come here and be successful. So academics obviously are a huge part. I can support athletes here at Bryn Mawr, and like most Division III coaches at highly selective schools, listen, we get a ton of kids who are going to look just like Grace or Carlie or Logan or whoever on paper. And as a coach, I'm not getting anybody in that's got D's on their transcript, right? Like I'm not making you look better. But when we have all these applicants and they're all roughly the same, if you're tagged as a varsity athlete, it gives you that little bit of an advantage and a little bit of security around being admitted. And that's all like, a tip system, a slot system, a band system. You'll hear those different terms thrown around at different schools. They all use a different system. That matters. And then finances matter a lot. And we talk a lot about financial aid with families and students. And unfortunately, it's part of the concoction that goes into making an admissions decision. And we do look at financial aid and how much need a family has. Because it is a factor for us. And that's true at virtually every school. And, particularly in the current climate with the economic fallout from COVID-19, that's going to continue and probably become more important as we move forward. So who knows what changes we have coming, but it's going to have an impact. So then, if we check all those boxes, the next thing is to have you contact our players, come to campus, whether it's an ID clinic or a day visit or what have you, but meet our people and give us a chance to make sure you're the type of person that's going to fit in well with us. So I think from a cultural standpoint, in terms of buying into the things that we value, I think that's a really important thing. So Anna Miller, I'm going to have you jump in here and talk a little bit about things you think we value, right? So as all these young people are listening to you, right, what kind of traits are we looking for to join the team?
I think probably competitiveness and commitment and kindness, and I could go on and on. I think the big thing is like we've felt like I got this feeling when I joined that we were on like an upward momentum, that we were rising as a team and getting better, and every game felt better than the last game. And I think we're looking for more people that are confident and excited about being part of that. And that includes like the ability to communicate with each other and be honest about what we need from each other. And yeah.
Grace, jump in. You haven't played with the team yet, right? But you've been around us a bunch. You've been at a bunch of different things. What do you see? What do you think we all saw in you, and really the students? What do you think that they saw in you, or they appreciate about you and are excited about adding in? Like, what things do you think you're bringing that fit with our cultural values?
Well, my high school team was kind of similar to Bryn Mawr's situation, like being on that upward momentum, like every year was just like we knew that we were going to get better every year. So I kind of learned to like love that like feeling of like knowing that like you get to work hard and get better. And I think now that that's just like a part of like my personality, and especially like my soccer game is just like wanting to be better. And I think that a lot of other college players, or like even some of the kids in my class, they get comfortable and like they just like they join a team that's already good and they don't really think about the fact that like you can get so much better. But I think that's one thing that like the Bryn Mawr team and I both like really appreciate is just wanting to get better every single time.
Logan, anything you want to add to that list of characteristics?
I think something that's really important is like along the lines of like responsibility and determination, but also like maturity in the way of like us talking about, you know, how every season's getting better, but like recognizing that these seasons haven't gone our way all the time, and that comes with lessons, and being mature enough to, you know, openly talk about those things, and also like being mature enough to be like, hey, this isn't going our way, but I'm not going to give up. I'm still showing up to that off-season lift. I'm still doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. Everyone's still committed to the cause, and it's like, even if we're not getting the results we want, that doesn't mean that we're able to give any less. So just kind of like the maturity and responsibleness to like do what we signed up for and continue to put in that effort, even if we're faced with challenges.
And I think I would add, Carlie, I'll come to you next, but I would add to that, very typical of Bryn Mawr students, we're getting a lot of modesty from this group of 4 people. There's a lot more behind these young players than they're telling you. And Logan's a good example, and I think she knows of which she speaks because she was elected captain this year despite not playing this fall. We had her returning from we're going to call it an injury. It's more complicated than that, but she was on the men this summer, making her way back. And then sort of the situation compounded itself with an actual orthopedic situation. I think it was a few minutes in the scrimmage in preseason against Rutgers Newark, and that was all it wrote for Logan this year. And so as our 2 senior captains, Lexi and Kat, transitioned out at the end of the fall semester, Logan and Carlie were elected by the team. No input from the coaches. The team voted for these 2, and Logan was picked up because, you know, those things she's talking about, she's been creative and unrelenting in sort of pursuing those things without ever having touched a ball, essentially, over the course of the fall season. And I think that's a massive credit to Logan. But I think, you know, when you're talking about contributing and making it better, that's a huge statement because it's Logan's actions that, you know, that drove that forward. So I think, and that's that story about Logan, I think is impressive. And it's far from the only one with this group. So Carlie, what else? Any other tidbits to add to the list?
Yeah, I really liked what Logan said about responsibility and like your contributions. I also think it's like important to have people who are willing to admit that they've made a mistake and learn from it, but also have an openness to new situations. You know, you like come to Bryn Mawr, you come to a college environment, and for a lot of people, it's a lot different than their home environments. And there's a lot of adjusting that can happen, both soccer wise and not soccer wise. So it's like an open-mindedness. And something I'd also like to add too is like, it's not Logan and I's job to like, as captains, to kind of like be punitive with the team and say like, oh, why didn't you miss this lift? Or why did you do this? It's like, we're there to encourage people and to like, just help the team flow as it needs to be. And I think that something that like really stood out to me was when like kind of we were going through this like captain's process and whatnot. Someone said to me after the whole thing happened is like, a teammate said, you know, I respect people who put in the work and who like, you don't have to worry about them. And I think we're a team like full of people who are like that, where we can like as individuals, like there isn't a need for Logan and I to like be on people about like coming to things or doing things that they need to be doing, because there's a sense of like wanting to work for your teammates and put in that time for each other. And it's a really special environment. So.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with the quality of the person we get here at Bryn Mawr, just in general, just the people that are here. I think the honor code, and you'll probably hear a little bit about that in a moment. You know, people who want to study at a school that operates under an honor code understand what accountability and responsibility are. pretty well. So I think that matters a lot to sort of how we operate. And I think, one of the other questions I get a lot is, off-season training and what's a typical week look like? And, for the most part, everybody, no matter what division 1, 2, 3 you are, your fall season is 4 training sessions and 2 games and 1 day off, right? And that's all NCAA mandated stuff. And we all come in at some point in mid-August. Division I's come in a little earlier. We're all wrapped up with the regular season by the first week in November, give or take. And then the Final Four tournaments are played into the first weekend in December. And so we're all basically on the same schedule. In the off season, that's where it gets really different. And the Division I's and 2's have a lot more latitude to have coaches and players working together and have mandatory lifting sessions, fitness sessions, things like that. In Division 3, we have 15 practices that can be mandatory in the off season, in our spring season. And those opportunities are legislated by the NCAA. We can only play 1 date of competition, and you can only play up to 180 minutes of soccer. So like this past spring, we were actually going to play a local junior college in the morning, play a 90-minute game, and then we were going to turn around, take a lunch break, and travel over to Eastern University down the street and scrimmage them for another 90 minutes. And you get it all done in an 8-hour window, and you play your 180 minutes, and that's it for the spring in terms of competition. So for our students, they organize Sunday night indoor soccer in the Women's Open League at, if you're from the Philly area, YSC Sports, where the Philadelphia Union Academy is based. So they go up there on Sunday nights and they play against other college and women's teams. Typically they play 1 or 2 nights a week of futsal here in our gym. We have a great setup in the gym for that. And then our strength and conditioning coaches, we have 2 of those, and they run 3 weightlifting sessions in the gym, and the team can go in and do those. But none of that's mandatory, and none of that, I can't ask Carlie, hey, Carlie, who was it Sunday night soccer? Logan, who came down for futsal on Tuesday? Anna, how many people came to lift? Yes, I can't do that. They can't tell me. There's none of that. So it's all on your own time and on your own sort of recognizance. And I think what I typically say is, look, we don't do less in Division 3. We just allow you more autonomy to make it fit into your life better. So that if Carlie wants to be in the College Democrats and, Logan wants to be doing research and Anna does whatever it is that Anna does with her free time, you can do that. And then you can go lift, when it fits in your schedule. And you just make sure your teammates know that, hey, I'm not coming to the lift at 4. I'm going to do it at 10 o'clock tonight. Cool, go do it. That's fine. So there's more responsibility because I'm not the one breathing down your neck about it. Now, we do have a pretty heavy battery of testing in terms of strength and conditioning, so we know if you're doing the work or not. But for the most part, I think it comes down to those types of things. So I'm going to throw a couple more in here because this is a good question. How many players do we typically take in a recruiting class, and do first years typically play? The answer to the second question is emphatically yes. If we recruit you, and we do have walk-on players, so we always have a couple of extra players on the roster who are essentially trying out for the team on an ongoing basis. But if we recruit you, part of that deal is that we will play you. There are 4 basic caveats that go into that, and as we go along with each of you, and this process stretches out, you'll hear about those 4 caveats. They're pretty simple, to be honest, but we want to play you as a first year. We want you to be a better senior when you're a senior, because in college soccer, it's all about your juniors and seniors. And if you have great juniors and seniors and they know what they're doing and they're experienced and they're great leaders, and they're good role models and mentors, then you'll be successful, hugely successful. So our philosophy is our seniors are going to be better seniors than the other team seniors if they played substantially as first years and sophomores. So, and with the NCAA substitution laws, we get creative about that stuff and we do that. So again, it's all that sort of accountability. We're going to trust you as coaches. Your teammates are going to trust you as peers. you'll be rewarded for that. You'll be trusted for that. And I think that, to me, that makes us special. But I've also been doing this for 20 years, plus 4 years of playing in college myself. And I know how it doesn't work that way at most schools. So, when I took the job here, this team was in such a state of disrepair that it was all these ideas I'd had, and always said, well, what if somebody did that? What if you did this? You could do this. This would be different. But you could never upset the apple cart at the other programs I worked with, because they were having success. So, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But when I came here, it was broke. And so we've tried some things that I think will be super productive and make a lot more sense given the environment we work in. So there's that. And then, so how many do we recruit? Typically 6 is the number I throw out. Maybe 7 or 8 if we need a goalkeeper. And then just depending on the churn in the team. Lexi Bucci, her career was ended. She was a captain this past fall as a senior, graduating this week, but her career was ended with concussion, right? So, those types of things happen. People are going to transfer, people are going to decide they want a double major and they don't have time for soccer. College soccer is not going to be what you expect it to be. Most of the time it works out to be better than what you're hoping for, but sometimes it doesn't. And, and people come and go from teams. That's just a natural part of college sports. So depending on those fluctuations, maybe 7 or 8, but ideally we'll keep a roster of somewhere in the neighborhood of 24 to 26 recruited players, depending on the number of goalkeepers in the team. So that also makes it easier for us to get people in the games. So, and again, that's all stuff I'm happy to talk about, more with individuals as we move forward. So let me see what other, I think we've hit on that. Right. So let's hit the big one, right? And then we'll kind of move on to having people ask questions, and sort of winding down. But, here's the big one, right? And somebody was brave enough to write it to me earlier today. What's it like, that freak show of a women's college, right? It's got to be, it's a nunnery. It's everybody's locked up. There's no dudes, right? What does that look like? So Carlie, start us off. Tell us a little bit about the stereotypes of a women's college, the realities, all of that.
Yeah, so everyone thinks that you're going to a convent. There's a fun bingo list that gets shared around some of the women's college community, like meme pages, Facebook groups, whatever, around Thanksgiving. That's like the FAQs of a women's college. It's like, do you see guys? Do you ever get off campus? Is it a convent? It's a mess and ridiculous. But so we have a really cool partnership with Haverford and Swarthmore, where we can take classes at both of those campuses, and students from Haverford and Swarthmore can both come to our campus and take classes as well. UPenn is included in that too. So we had a couple of people on the team this past semester, and pretty consistently every semester we have at least 1 or 2 players go and take classes at UPenn. But I think it's definitely, it's not like you're never going to see a guy. You're going to have guys in your classes. You're going to be able to see them. You're going to make friends with them. I will say, though, it does take a little bit more work on your individual part. It's not just easy to say, you can't just say I think what Paul likes to say sometimes is it's as co-ed as you make it. And I think that's very true. Because if you don't interact with guys, fine, you don't. If you do, you do have to make the effort though, and go to Haverford, go to Swarthmore, meet people. But the thing is, there's so many people on campus all the time and in classes, and we're able to participate in all of Haverford and Swarthmore's clubs. Their weekend activities, things like that. And I know all 3 of us who are in the call right now, who are current students, have friends who are guys and regularly interact with guys. So it's it's not you're never going to see a dude. So, but it's that all aside, it's a really empowering environment, because I think in a lot of places, so I'm obviously the quietest person on the team, as you guys can tell, super quiet, not outspoken at all. Don't know how to handle myself in social situations, obviously. Heavy sarcasm, in case you didn't get that. Internet communication is hard. But it's a really cool environment, because in a lot of co-ed situations, what's going to happen is because men are socialized to be more overbearing, and they don't really think about sometimes you have to have a little bit of awareness in situations like a classroom setting, where you're not going to get talked over in a Bryn Mawr classroom like you would in maybe a more co-ed environment. And it's very empowering and uplifting to be around an amazing community of women that are all doing amazing things. And it helps you become, if you're not like on the shyer end, if you're on the quieter end, it helps you become a better scholar and a better person, because you're not afraid to speak up in a class because you think you're going to get talked over by someone, and you're confident that your ideas are going to be heard. And in the cases where like something does happen and maybe someone does try to be a little bit more overbearing, the professors and people in my classes are really good at like stepping in and saying like, okay, let's let them finish first, like let's let someone else talk, stuff like that. So overall, it's a really empowering, good environment. And yeah.
Logan, anything to add? Anna?
So I know that I mentioned when I committed, I had no idea there's a women's college. So I'm sure you can imagine my shock. But I had like the same concerns, but none of them are true. Like, I was where you guys are. I was so scared. It really is what Carlie said. Like, you have guy friends, you hang out with guys, you see them, you end up not even wanting to see them. And then you have your own little sanctuary and you get to pick and choose. And no, they really are everywhere. They always eat in our dining hall.
We have the better food.
They're around plenty. But it really is like, there are a lot of benefits to being a women's college, and like what Carlie was touching, like the empowerment stuff, like that is present. You do feel that. And even going to Haverford, you see the difference. And I am extremely grateful that I chose to go to the women's college. Yeah, I would say don't let that influence your decision, because it's a worry that shouldn't be a worry.
Yeah, I mean, my standard joke, and it's only half a joke, but in Philadelphia in general, there's 500,000 undergraduates here every single year, undergrad. And I always say, hey, listen, if you can't find a date in that crowd, then that's on you, not Bryn Mawr, right? Like, this is the type of student who's successful here, right? Is somebody who's willing to get up off their backside, jump on the train and go downtown, go to another campus and go see, get up to all the shenanigans that college students get up to. And I think that's, it's great. But then you come back to this campus and this community that is, listen, for me, it's an amazing experience. Every department head at Bryn Mawr, I think without exception, including the president, most of her cabinet, the head of grounds, the athletic director, department heads, the deans, they're all women. And so every meeting I go to, every committee that I'm involved with on campus, I'm in, a significant minority, which for, middle-aged, middle-income white dude is not a particularly common thing. And it makes you think differently about how you interact. If it has that kind of impact on me as an employee who goes home every night, I think it's got to be profound on the students that are here absorbing this environment. And, it's pretty cool to watch people grow up here. Even Carlie, as precocious as she is, has undergone a lot of really positive changes here. And I think, Bryn Mawr had a lot to do with that. And, we have exceptional people here, but it's a lot of fun to watch that evolution. So Grace, what's your take on all of this, coming in? Are you worried? What's alleviated sort of the women's college aspect for you?
Well, when I first came, walked around campus, I didn't really know it was a women's college either. Like, you see guys everywhere, like you really don't notice it. And I've come to campus multiple times, and honestly, I feel like the biggest benefit for me is being able to just walk around, and the last thing on your mind is is there what guys are around, or that's just not, it's not even something that's on your mind ever. So for me, that's what I'm really excited about, just to be able to focus on what I'm going to school for. But I don't know, I feel like what I've experienced, everyone's right about what they're saying, is I'm not really worried about it, and I don't think I ever really was, because no one ever really makes it like an issue, I guess. Yeah. It's only really positive.
Anna, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I didn't even realize, I was kind of worried about the women's college thing too before I came, and I didn't think that having no guys in the class would make any impact. And then I sat in on a Bryn Mawr class, and I was like, oh my God, it's very, very different to be in class with no guys or with one or two guys. And it immediately feels more relaxing, and like you have more say and you can speak more. And I didn't feel like oppressed in any way when I was in high school with a bunch of guys, but coming to Bryn Mawr was still super freeing. And there is something definitely to be said for being able to walk around campus, and although there are guys around sometimes, like it's like your own little sanctuary. You get to go to other schools to do whatever you want, and then come back to Bryn Mawr, and it's quiet and so safe, and it's just you and your friends there, and it's really awesome. And I think like Logan was saying, it's a lot of what you make it. You know, you can find guys if you want to. It's super easy to do so. I had like barely any interaction with guys this whole last year, and that was like 100% my choice. And so yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah. So you can see it's a pretty varied thing. And the other thing I'd say is, you have 1,300 students. You've got, maybe 500 faculty and staff, and everybody has wrestled with that same question, right? Whether you come at it from a professional's perspective or a student's perspective, you have to look at this community and say, is this the right move for me? And I think, one, when you look at 2,000 people who are, frankly, the best at what they do, whether it's being a student or a professor or, if I may say so, a soccer coach, we've all made that decision. We've all been through that process. And I think not so much, it's not about Bryn Mawr. That's a process you should be going through with every school you're looking at. And you should be asking yourself, this campus has fraternities. And you should examine, do I want that atmosphere? This campus is urban. This campus is rural, right? Do you want that atmosphere as much as you should to go there and be successful? And I think that comes back around to, the gut reaction, the visceral reaction. This campus feels like home. And I think a big, big piece of it, and one of the reasons we're successful, is we do a good job of finding people who are open-minded enough to come sit in on a Zoom, come to an ID camp, do a visit, speak with me on the phone, talk to one of our players, and having the open-mindedness to say, all right, it's a women's college, but I'll hear them out. That type of sort of intellectual curiosity is what gets people across the finish line and makes them successful here. But it worries me that they're being so blindly accepting of characteristics at other schools too. So again, it's not necessarily about Bryn Mawr and being a women's college. It's about, are you doing your due diligence to the same degree with every aspect of every college you're looking at? And that's my kind of soapbox 2 cents for the night. I'm a little afraid of what's about to happen here. One, we've had a couple of people drop out. So if it's, what do we got? Yeah, it's about 10 o'clock East Coast. If you got to go, I just want to thank you for spending the time with us. I hope it's been helpful in however you define that at this point. So if you want to take off, I will say formally, like, we're done. But I will also submit that we'll be more than happy to sit here and answer questions for, as long as folks want to sit up and chat. So
probably the easiest way to do that would be, there's a hand raise feature. I don't know if you all have used that for your classes yet, but if you click on the participant list, Paul, and people use like the raise hand feature in the participant thing, I think that's a good way to kind of flag people if they have questions.
Okay. All right. Cool. Let me see. Carlie, raise your hand. Let me see what happened. Oh, I got you. Okay, hold on. Here we go. So, Cecilia, what do you got?
Okay, so I have a question for Carlie, because I'm also interested in pursuing political science.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to know if you could let me know a little bit about the political science program at Bryn Mawr and what you like about it, and why you would maybe recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I said earlier, I'm a double major in political science and biology, if anyone missed that. But what's been really cool about the department is that they give, so the way your major is structured is that you pick 2 concentrations and you take about 3 classes in each concentration. That makes the bulk of your major. You have to take 2 intros and then a capstone and some other senior year activities. But so if you don't like the 2 concentrations that if you don't want to pick one of the 2 like pre-made concentrations they've made, so I think the 4 are like American politics, international politics, comparative politics, and political philosophy. So I actually, my 2 concentrations are in none of those. They're in public policy and environmental politics. And what's really cool is how interdisciplinary the department is. So I've been able to take environmental studies courses, philosophy courses, and actually a biology course called Bio and Public Policy that is counted towards both of my majors. And I've really been able to make it what I want it to be. And so with that, I actually going into my senior year, so I have to thesis, or they're changing up the political science major a little bit, and that's definitely more in the weeds for this conversation. But if you want, Paul can give you my information if you have any more specific questions about that. Happy to field those. But so for my biology thesis, I'll be looking at the effects of elevated CO2 and nitrogen on marsh plants in Atlantic salt marshes. And then what I'm going to do for my political science thesis is I'm going to take the data I'm collecting from that for my internship this summer with the Smithsonian that is now unfortunately remote. And I'm going to be turning that into a political science thesis about what a theoretical policy response at the federal and local levels would look like, given this set of data that's affecting this ecosystem that is so crucial for a variety of reasons. So and I think that the interdisciplinary nature of the poli-sci department is really reflective of a lot of the departments throughout Bryn Mawr. And I have a friend who's a political science and cities major, which is really cool. I have another friend who's doing she graduated last year and did political science and religion. So it's really easy to do that and like make it what you want it to be. So.
Cool. I'm going to go to Amanda Cruz. You're on the clock.
Hi. My dad wants to ask a question. You already answered my question.
All right. Fire away.
Hey, Coach. Good evening, all. Just 2 questions, I guess, Coach. Is the team housed like together, like in a dorm, or does that happen often? And what's the average GPA of the team?
Sure. So before we departed campus for spring break and the rest of the term, the team was carrying a 3.51 cumulative GPA across all 4 class years. So very, very good. We don't do study halls. I don't get progress reports from professors. Bryn Mawr has a intense support network on this campus, in the dorms, through the deans, the faculty who are very hands-on. And then you got me, right? And I'm checking in with our students on a pretty regular basis on these things too. So, but I think the single greatest driver behind our academic success as a group is just our returning players model great behavior, establish high expectations. The students we get somebody's paying a lot of money for these kids to be here, whether it's the federal government or grandpa or, somebody's taking out loans. They're motivated. Like, they understand this is a privilege. This is a huge opportunity. And they're the type of student who's going to work hard anyway. But then they come in and they're blended in with other students who are very much like that and know the ropes. So the habits are good, I think, from the get-go. And so overall, academics really aren't an issue for us, and occasionally I'm checking in on some people about things, but even the kids that I'm like worried about, they're doing fine. They're making progress and they're going to graduate. They're just, they're not going to be magna cum laude. So there's that. And then the housing thing, all of our dorms have all 4 class years housed in them. We do guarantee housing for 4 years as well. And what we've had happening more and more as we go on, our team's pretty close with the field hockey team, but also lacrosse and some of the other sports as well. And so we're starting to see athletes choosing to room with athletes. And for this generation, Grace got in, 8 months ago, give or take. and in the interim, there's been Facebook groups and different sort of ways for her to connect with other students, and then obviously through the coaches. And so we've had a lot of students room with basketball players and field hockey players and stuff like that. So they're sort of self-selecting because I think it makes a lot of a difference to live with somebody who understands the demands on your time and the sort of way you want to live your life in college. But living with a teammate can be kind of fraught. That's a lot of time to spend with that person. So, we, as coaches, I think we encourage intra-sport, inter-squad, housing arrangements. I love seeing the athletes live together, but they're blended in with all the other students and all 4 class years and all the dorms. So it's good though, because you don't get too insular in the athletic department. You have that interaction with other teams, but you also get exposed to, kids from all other walks of life, all over the world. Almost 20% of our students are international. So, there's a lot going on here, and we kind of keep the athletes mixed right in with the community.
If I may jump in too, I've done both. My freshman year, I lived with a student who wasn't affiliated with the athletics at all. And then my sophomore year, I lived in a 4-room quad essentially. So we each had our own space, but it was with 2 athletes on the soccer team and 1 athlete on the field hockey team. So, and both have been really fun. And then this year I was in a single dorm in Rhodes, just because that's what I was like, okay, why not? We'll try something new. But I still had players from different teams within my dorm and teammates in my dorm as well. So just because we weren't in the same room or the same space per se, we were still all close to each other. So, and all 3 housing arrangements have been fun and fine for me. It was really cool getting the chance to meet someone and spend some time with my customs group, and that's your orientation group. But there's no sport specific housing. I know that's a common question we get.
Izzy.
Carlie, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Good luck on finals.
I know you touched on the fact that not having a football or men's soccer team helps with the resources and scheduling, but how does it affect game day turnout and the overall game day experience?
I mean, so listen, at the end of the day, we were 6-10 this fall. That's ties the program record for wins. We are a good team and getting better, and the wins are coming, right? So, but until you're winning, and I mean big time, nobody's coming to your games. And that's true on every single campus. And I can tell you, we go play some of the top teams in the country, nationally ranked teams on a weekly basis in the Centennial. And, they're 10-5 coming into our game, and it's a home game, and it's a Saturday, and it's beautiful weather, and nobody's there. And, if you're 16-2 and it's the first round of the playoffs, people will show up. So I think you have to, it's incumbent on the coaches and athletes to put a product on the field that people want to come watch, because there's a lot going on here in Philadelphia and on these campuses. So, I think we get good crowds for where we are. Our parents are a super supportive group of people. The other teams here at Bryn Mawr do a great job of supporting one another. And I think we have a good atmosphere for a team that's, that isn't nationally ranked. So that would be my take on it. But I can tell you, when I was an assistant at Haverford prior to coming here, I was with the men's program, and we were good, but we were borderline good. We were making conference finals. We even made the NCAA tournament in 2012. And nobody came to our games. And we were like, man, come on. We're pretty good. We made the second round of the tournament, the NCAA tournament in 2012, and nobody came to our games. And then in 2015, we had a team that went to the Elite Eight, and we won everything. We won 16 games in a row, and people were coming out. And I've seen that at other schools as well. So I think you want people to come watch you, get your butt in the weight room. That's,
all right.
You got to win. So, but go ahead, Carlie and Logan and Anna, jump in, because you guys see the crowds.
Yeah, we have a really supportive athletics department. There are players from every team that come to. I could probably point out at least one, if not a handful more, player from every team we've got within the athletics department who come to each other's games. Me and a couple players handed out flyers for field hockey when they got to the first round of the Centennial Championship, stuff like that. And there's a really good atmosphere with that. It's really fun. I dragged my whole customs group down to watch a soccer game my freshman year, which is like your big 15-person orientation group, and they all came out. And this past season, we had a bunch of people like who would like sit behind the goals and like cheer you on, or the other team's goal when that happened. And but it's a really like good close-knit environment, and we do like get really good consistent support at our games.
Yeah, I would say that getting the general population to Bryn Mawr to our games maybe doesn't happen as often, but you don't feel like you don't have fans when you're playing because like what Carlie said, like all the other teams are bringing people out and cheering for you by name, and like a couple of them make signs sometimes. And yeah, even if like we don't get every single person from Bryn Mawr or even like the majority of the non-athletes to come to the games, home games are still really fun, and you feel like you have the support of the campus.
Each NCAA member institution also gets this thing called a student athlete advisory committee, and there's like varying levels of it. But our student athlete advisory committee at Bryn Mawr does this program called sibling teams, and each team gets matched up with another team, and you do fun things for them. Like last year, our sibling team was swim, and so we made little goodie bags for them before their meets and decorated their lockers and stuff like that. And then when it was our season, they would come out to our games and make signs and put stuff for us in the locker rooms, like really cute stuff like that. So
All right, I'm going to move on to Megan McGuire has a question.
Hi, so I have a question for Anna. So you said that you were on the pre-med track. So what type of like classes does that involve, and how did you like deal with it with soccer practices? And also, just this is for anyone, like is AP credit taken, and if so, like mainly 5s, mainly 4s and 5s, like how did that work?
Yeah, so I came in and I took Gen Chem my first semester, and I'm finishing that up this year. And I took Intro Bio my second semester. Just right now I'm taking the first semester of Intro Bio. I will say that I recommend taking biology and chemistry together. The advisors will say to be careful because it's 2 labs and it's a lot, and 2 labs is a lot. So I don't, maybe not during soccer season. At least your first semester, I would hold off and to take either biology or chemistry because it's a big adjustment having 2 labs. But it's definitely doable. And we have Gail Glicksman, who's our pre-med advisor or pre-health advisor in general, and she is fantastic. You make a meeting with her like in your first couple of weeks of school. It's really low key, and she'll give you like outlines of all these different ways that you can do it and approach the pre-med track, and she's sending you emails constantly with opportunities for internships or even just people that you can go listen to talk about different things that'll help you, be more successful. She's a gem. She's great. Yeah, but it's been with soccer season, it's been like generally manageable. Labs are the only thing that like make it even kind of difficult because some labs will run up till 4 p.m. and then maybe we have practice at 4:30, and so then that's a little rough trying to pack up and get down to the field in time. But Paul's been lenient with that, and the professors are lenient with it too. So it's not like a disadvantage or anything to do pre-med.
Okay.
And then with AP credit, it depends on the score. Most departments will take a 5, will only take a 5. A handful will do a 4. But the way it works is that you can't like you need a certain number of units to graduate, and this is a little bit in the weeds. But most of the time, a 5 on like the AP Bio exam, for example, will allow you to not take like the first semester of Intro Bio, but you'll still have to take the second. And then you still need that. It doesn't mean like you get like you have one less class to graduate. You still need to take like the 32 units or whatever it ends up being to graduate. So.
And then, so like if you're going to be like a biology major, does Bryn Mawr require you to take like, let's say I get a 5 on my AP Bio test. Does Bryn Mawr still require you to take like their biology and their chemistry courses because you're going through that biology major?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they highly recommend that you take the bio class even if you got the AP credit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think it ends up being for the best because like Bryn Mawr classes are significantly different than high school classes with a lot more work and in depth, and so I think it's good to have that background.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
And that'll be true at virtually all peer institutions to Bryn Mawr, right? And one of the things you have to realize is that fully, 85% of colleges accept 50%, 50% of their applicants or more. So by virtue of being as selective as we are, we're in the top 15% of all colleges in this country. And so once you get into that sort of range, those AP classes, they can be helpful, but the reality is that, much as your soccer will be, the academics are a big step up, and the schools know that, the faculty know that, and they're going to want to make sure that you are in fact prepared for medical school, and they're not going to make any mistakes about that. So, it does depend on the institution, but it's a great question to ask an admission officer. Obviously, if you're talking to me, you and I can have that conversation as well. Gail Glicksman, who Anna mentioned, is absolutely fantastic. She'll talk to our recruits for us, and sort of give you a really good sense of things. So coaches can be good conduits to those type of people that otherwise it'd be really hard for you to find as just a regular student. So those types of academic questions, use the coaches you're talking with, myself included, as a resource for sort of getting, into the weeds, as Carlie said, to kind of suss some of that stuff out. So let's see here. We got one more. Yeah. It says Wick Swain, and I'm Emma, right?
Yeah.
Was that you? Yeah, where are you?
Yeah. All right. So my question, it's kind of along some similar lines, but so it's with IB credit, International Baccalaureate credit, so I know that it's a higher level, like you have to get higher scores, but does it also kind of do the same thing with AP, like where they recommend you still take the class even if you got a high IB score, or do you know how that works?
I think that's definitely like an admissions question. I don't know if, I don't think neither Anna, Logan, or Grace or I did IB. So I definitely direct you to admissions on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I actually don't know how that all works. And generally my response would be, I would say to you, Emma, all right, let's find, here's the admission officer who covers the territory that you're going to fall under. And a quick email or phone call with that person is going to answer that. And I think it's best to get that from the horse's mouth. So those are generally things I punt to admissions and let them answer, because they have better information than I do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, all right, let's see here. Who else? Lauren Dorfman. Lauren, what can we do for you?
I was wondering if any soccer players do Air Force ROTC and play soccer, or any athletes, and is it possible to be an athlete? It
is possible. You're the second person I've dealt with the Air Force ROTC, and the way it works for our students is that St. Joseph's University, which is 10 minutes down the road, they have an Air Force ROTC program that sort of includes Bryn Mawr students. So you can be a Bryn Mawr student, do everything you do at Bryn Mawr, and then go over to St. Joe's. And I forget the exact details of it, but I just went through it this spring on another student's behalf. And I think it would be logistically challenging, but it looked pretty doable. And it doesn't scare me off in terms of, if you said that's a make or break thing, we'd find a way to make that work for you. So, depending on the student and the circumstances, I think it's pretty doable, but it would require, figuring out how to get transport down to St. Joe's, which, you can walk off our campus, jump on the R5, and St. Joe's is, a handful of stops down the line on the commuter rail. There's always Uber. If you have your own car, obviously that's easy. So doable. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. All right. Izzy, I'm gonna make you hold on a sec because you already got to ask a question. Jay Steinberg, Olive Steinberg, where are you?
I'm right here. Hi.
Hi.
So I have a more like general question for like all colleges.
Yeah.
So theoretically, with COVID, the fall season could potentially be like over, like not happening. If that does happen, would it be, or is it possible that it could be moved to the spring instead?
Yeah. So as I've been, weekly telling, Grace and Anna and Carlie and Logan and their teammates, nobody knows what's going to happen this fall at this point. But what I can tell you pretty confidently is that there is a remarkable number of very sharp people in the sort of athletics and collegiate athletics, higher ed world, who are working really hard to come up with as many different creative solutions to these particular problems as they can. And so we've heard everything from, business as usual, normal operations, to starting in October and playing conference season only, to pushing out to a spring season and just having, maybe just conference games or even just a truncated, 5 or 6 game quote unquote season, to just give Grace and her class a first year experience of some sort, give Carlie and Izzy Finkler from our other senior, their last shot going around. So, they're going to cancel a sport or a season only under the most extreme circumstances. The number one question we have to answer first is, are colleges going to bring students back to campus? Because if the colleges don't open the campuses, then sports are not going to happen. Once that decision gets made, then we know what effect that'll have on sports, and we can start to talk about the alternatives. And right now, nobody knows. I think even the schools that you're seeing, and they're saying, oh, we're going to be open in the fall, and even the ones that said they're not, they have plenty of time to change their minds. And, if the situation were to get worse, the schools that say they're going to be coming back this fall, they'll change their minds. Nobody's going to put students in dangerous situations, or anything like that. So it's a great question. Nobody has the answer. We're preparing as though our students are coming back on August 17th and 18th, and that we're going to start training on August 19th, just like we've been planning. And until somebody tells me otherwise, that's where we are. So, the answer is we don't know. And we're all just waiting. And, hopefully the really smart scientific community out there can come up with some magic for us and keep us all safe. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry I don't have a, better answer. Anna, where are you, my friend?
Hi.
Hey. Oh, there you are. Hi.
So I know that soccer and even just the academics are really demanding at Bryn Mawr, and I was curious if there are other opportunities to have leadership roles outside of athletics and even just be in clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take this one. So outside of soccer, I am the co-president for our college Democrats chapter. It's still within athletics, but this year I'll also be serving as the co-president for the Student Athlete Advisory Committee that I mentioned earlier. And then I also just got elected to be the senior songs mistress for the class of 21, which is very exciting. But so what this is a role within the campus traditions. So if you've read about Bryn Mawr's traditions a little bit, you'll know that there's 4 of them. There's Lantern Night, Parade Night, Welcome to First Year's Week, and May Day. And so after 3 out of those 4, there's what's called a step sing. And Bryn Mawr students gather on the steps of Taylor, and each class has a class song. And so I will be one of the people that helps kind of like run those traditions and facilitates the step sings. That's pretty cool. But I know Logan does some volunteering, and then Anna also does stuff outside of soccer. So it's really possible, and that's pretty true across the whole team, is that there's plenty of time for you to not only be an athlete, be a student, but do stuff outside of on campus and in the community, and also still get 8 hours of sleep. So
yay, thank you.
All right, sorry. And all right, Izzy, one more. What do you got?
All right. Last one, I promise. If the environment within the team and on the field and in the locker room could just be described in one word, what would it be?
Oh, that's so hard. I'm trying to think.
One word.
It's just hard to sum it up in one word. And I know that's like saying that's a cop out, but like it's such a unique space and group of people. Like I said as earlier, like no two moments are the same.
It's kind of like family. Like
Yeah.
there's like you're generally really supported, and people like can joke with each other super easily. It's competitive. I think family would be my closest word.
Thank you.
I think that if I had one word, it is hard, but I feel like one word would be inclusive. I feel like it's very much like, I know that we've had some like breakdowns in the locker room or like situations in the locker room, and like no matter who it is, whoever's there, like they have your back no matter what you're going through. Like you have other people there with you, and like that camaraderie. I think camaraderie is a good word.
Oh,
maybe that's my word.
Yeah, I'm taking that. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I feel like they all go together though. But yeah, just like everyone supporting each other, like even not even just like on the field locker room, but like in the classroom, out of the classroom, dining hall, like we're always there. We're always like open, and we're able to like communicate, and we usually know what most people are going through. And everyone's really, really supportive. It's a really, really welcoming, open environment that I feel like is pretty rare.
Thank you.
It's really nice.
Yeah, it's funny to listen to you guys talk about and use the word family. I think is funny because I tend to stay away from that particular word around like I've seen other teams where there's a sign on a coach I know on their door, and the sign says it's our family against their team. And I think about all the families I know that are divorced, you know, siblings that hate each other, right? Like it's a mess up. Like family, you don't have a choice. But when I look at our group, I think like you are empowered to opt in, and you opt in every single day because there's no scholarship over your head, right? We're Division III. We're not going to give you money for athletics. So you're here every single day. You get up, you look yourself in the eye in the mirror, and you say, I'm going to go do the right thing for the team. And to me, that's the ideal relationship. But I feel like family kind of hides a few manner of sin there that, that we're free from. And so I think, but I get that sentiment, right? And, sort of the sisterhood and that notion of being tightly bonded, I think is pretty legitimate. And I mean, to this day, I have a group chat with our alums, some of whom graduated before I even got here. I never coached them. But they're so excited to watch these players on your screen here, making strides and improving the program every day. There is sort of a lineage, right, in a familial sense that's pretty cool too. So, one word, it's going to be hard to do that justice. It'd be one heck of a word. Let's see, Abby, you got a question. Did I unmute? There we go.
Yeah, so my question, I have two questions. One is more for Carlie, since I'm also a goalkeeper and I'm looking to do nursing. How is it being a goalkeeper and having labs?
Totally workable. So we, I think there were we got to see a couple of your questions that you all submitted before this. But so as goalkeepers, we'll both do individual work and then also work with all the players, all the field players. And then there's some weeks there'll be an extra 30 minutes where Paul will say okay, all the goalkeepers are going to go out for 30 minutes before practice or a half hour after practice, schedule dependent, to just work on some individual things. But it's super manageable. I would echo what Anna said about both Paul and professors being accommodating with labs. I think I had a chem lab my sophomore year that ran like 45 minutes late because I think we dropped the wrong thing in the wrong time and had to restart the titration. So that wasn't super fun, but gotta love your lab partners and group work. But soccer is just one big group project, so gotta learn and go with it. But I enjoy being a goalkeeper. It's a lot of fun. I'm sure like you enjoy it for a lot of the same reasons I do, but it's a very supportive environment to be a goalkeeper into, right? Like you're the one that's closest to the net when the ball goes in, and that presents its own set of like mental difficulties. But I think it's like a really supportive environment, and your teammates are always like screaming at you when you make a big save, and you know, like giving you a hard time when we're doing arc finishing or a very shooting heavy drill where the goalkeepers have no chance. And it's fun. I have so much fun when I'm on the field with this group of people.
Thanks. And my second question is more for Coach Paul. What percentage of freshmen actually stay on the team all 4 years?
That's a tough one to answer, Abby, because, you know, 4 years ago with Lexi and Kat's class, who are graduating seniors this year, and then we have Anya and Emily who are graduating with them. That group of players came in, there were only 14 players on the roster. And so we conscripted a bunch of kids, including Emily Elmore, who didn't come out until, I think she only played in 2 games her first season, because it took a while to find her. The students found her and sort of heard like, oh, this kid over here played some soccer in high school. And they were like, oh, let's go talk to her. I mean, that was how bad things were when I arrived. So Emily came out, turned out to be a fabulous athlete and you know, did a heck of a job for us. But essentially she missed the whole first season. Anya transferred in and joined us as a sophomore the following year in 2017. So, you know, we've had really high turnover. I think Carlie's class was 5 to start with, and it's down to 2, which in a class of 5, honestly, at the college level, isn't that significant a level of attrition. I would generally say broadly across all levels of college soccer, men's, women's, Division I, Division III, and I've worked in all of those areas, 40% is a pretty good number. Like 4 out of 10 kids won't graduate as a 4-year player on a team. And, you know, earlier at the beginning of the conversation, I was talking about, hey, you know, we're looking to recruit between 6 and maximally 8 a year. That's a little risky. And the reason we take that risk is because, you know, I think the type of student that comes to Bryn Mawr is likely to stick things out. I think you pick Bryn Mawr because you have that visceral reaction, you have that passion for the community and the job that we have to offer you in the team. So, you know, we're kind of gambling that we'll see lower attrition than the typical program. But, you know, the injuries and just the demands and you do make sacrifices to be a college athlete. And I think that gets to some people. Like, it's hard to be, you know, sitting in doing homework on a Friday night because you have a game tomorrow and your whole hall like just went out to some awesome party or, you know, to go downtown and raise hell. And you're like hunkered down with your Gen Chem book, you know, or whatever it is. So, you know, that starts to feel like a sacrifice to some people. I think the people who are successful as athletes, they don't see that as a sacrifice. That booze fest or, you know, the movie or whatever it is, you know, it's cool and they're fine with it, but like, that's not why they're here. And so if it feels like a sacrifice, if you feel like you're missing out on other aspects of your life, college soccer is going to be really tough for you because you don't have mom and dad breathing down your neck. You're not paying club dues necessarily. And again, in Division III, it's not like I'm holding a scholarship over your head. So you're opting in. And I think for some people, they start to look around and go, man, there's so much else I could be doing. I'm out. And I think that's fine. You try to filter for that through your recruiting process to make sure that you get people who understand what they're getting into and understand that there are going to be some hard times. And, Anna Miller, again, sitting here very modestly and, saying nice things, but, she had a tough transition here, and this fall was hard for her. And she got a lot of accolades from her teammates with our we do teammate of the week voting and some other stuff where the students recognize each other. And Anna got really, really high marks, but it wasn't easy for her. Lots of kids in her situation, all the way from Seattle coming out here, it doesn't work for them. And Anna's been a rock star and has grown up a lot and matured and found a level of toughness in herself that she might not have known was there otherwise. And I couldn't be more proud of her at this point. It's awesome to watch. So, but those things affect people. And sometimes, sometimes the team galvanizes you and helps you get through that. Other times the team is the problem and it doesn't work out. So, but that said, Carlie's class started with 5. We're down to 2. Logan's class started with 8. And what are you now, 6? Going into your junior year. So, I don't, it's such a small sample size any given year. I'm not sure that I would really look at percentages and numbers too much, but my experience tells me around 40% won't make it 4 years. I think we can do better than that here at Bryn Mawr, but we'll find out over the next couple of years as we graduate more of my kids. Because you have to remember the 2021s, that's my 4th recruiting class. I started in 2016. I just had the kids that were here. 2017, Carlie's class was very much contacted Bryn Mawr and said, hey, I played soccer in middle school, was somebody I talked to. And then it really wasn't until Logan's class, the 2018 grads, that we had a full recruiting cycle and actually sort of dealt with that group in a normal way. So 2018, 2019, 2020 with Grace's class, and then the 21s will be our 4th class. So I don't quite know yet to answer your question. So that's a long way around, but it gives you a little sense of the history of the program too. Who else? Adriana, we got a question. Adriana, what can we tell you?
Yeah, I have 2 questions actually. The first one would be sorta aimed at Carlie, since I want to ask you, what's it like double majoring in different fields? Since I want to study either chemistry and history or foreign languages, so I want to know what that's like.
Absolutely. So Bryn Mawr's policy overall is that you can count, it depends on the major too, but you can count 1 class towards both majors. So that biology and public policy class I was telling you all about earlier, that's my 1 class that counts between both. But it really depends on the department and just what you're able to figure out. So I didn't really start working on I didn't take a political science course until my fall or spring or freshman year. And even though I came into Bryn Mawr with a pretty clear idea of what I wanted to do, there was still a lot of space for me to figure out oh, I don't want to go just the environmental studies direction. I can incorporate that into political science and do something more sciencey with biology. But I think across the board, it depends. Some majors are going to be easier to work with than others. So it'll just be a matter of talking to your department heads once you come into Bryn Mawr. But I found it really easy. I came into my advising meeting sophomore year with the bio major advisor and sat down and I was like, hey, I want a double major. And she's like, and I said, here's my plan. Here's what I'd like to do. And she was like, great, this was fantastic. We're excited for you to get this experience and we'll make it work. And so far we have, and fingers crossed on track to graduate with 2 majors. So.
Yeah, Adriana, I actually just this week was talking with our athletic director, who is writing a letter of recommendation for medical school for the first captain that I worked with here at Bryn Mawr, Anna Schoonover. She graduated in 2017 and she was a bio-Spanish double major. So there is a precedence there. Listen, everything you want to do here is about time management. And, we had a woman who played 4 years of basketball, 4 years of soccer, and majored in computer science. And her senior year was doing the 401 program at Penn. So she was finishing up her, thesis and senior level coursework playing 2 sports and taking master's level courses, graduate courses at the University of Pennsylvania all at once. So Kara didn't have much of a social life. I think she'd be okay with me admitting that. But she was killing it in the athletic department, and she was doing a great job, taking advantage of the 4-1 program in computer science at Penn. So, however you guys want to put this thing together, schools like Bryn Mawr, and again, we're great at it. There are other schools that can give you similar opportunities, but for sure, the world is your oyster at a school like this, and we'll work with you to get whatever experience you want.
I want to echo too what Paul said about time management, because like I said earlier, like I double major, I play soccer, I'm knock on wood, doing pretty well in my classes, and I'm still like having time to do things that aren't school or soccer, get sleep, and also like go have fun on the weekends too. So it's definitely all about like how you manage your time, like what your priorities are, and like what you make of it. So, and I think sports make you a better time manager as well. So don't be scared about it.
Yeah. Okay. And the other question might be like a bit off topic, but how's the food on campus? Like, I think it's important. I don't know.
Oh no, it's super important. Yeah. It's amazing. We are consistently in the top 10 by the Princeton Review for our food. If you get a chance to come to campus, like you'll absolutely love it. And it's something too, I was just having a conversation with the teammate I'm living with about it, where it's like something you don't really think about, and it's really good to be aware of, because like if you're an athlete, you're going to be eating a ton. Like you're going to come to the dining hall after practice and you're going to want to eat a lot. And if like the food is crappy, like it's going to make you want to not eat. But Bryn Mawr's food is fantastic. There's so many different options. And I don't know, Anna or Logan, if you have stuff to add about that.
They have like a whole bar in New Dorm that's just for vegan food. And so that's been pretty great this last. Not that I'm like totally vegan, but some days I'm trying to help. So yeah.
Just one thing to add is I have like a lot of allergies. So if anyone's concerned with that, like they literally make me my own meal for every meal. They're super accommodating. Like you just talk to the kitchen. Like if anyone has any questions regarding food accommodations, like feel free to hit me up. I know all about it, but very, very accommodating.
If you want to get a sense of like what our food looked like, I just Google like Bryn Mawr Erdman dining hall menu or New Dorm dining hall menu, and you can see like our old menus from before spring break. And you'll get to see like the type of food we have on the regular. In one of the dorms, they'll do like a French dinner, a German dinner. There's this really good like chickpea curry that they do for lunch sometimes at Erdman. There's really good pizza that they home make the dough for in New Dorm. And I know this is like in the weeds in specific, but the food is fantastic. Nothing to worry about at Bryn Mawr.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll chime in. I know for me and Coach John, who's sitting in here, the preseason's our favorite stretch of the year, because for 2 straight weeks we get to eat on the college's nickel, and $3 square a day in that dining hall is like the best thing ever. And the preseason food probably isn't even the better sort of stretch of food, because they're feeding such a small group. Once everybody's back, it gets really good. And I can actually attest to all the guys that I coached at Haverford over that 4 years routinely would try to schedule things so they could get to, especially dinner at Bryn Mawr, because the food was so much better over here than it was at Haverford. So having actually lived that reality, that we always kind of laugh about that. So yeah, the chow is good here. Are there any other questions? I don't see any other little blue hands raised here. Listen, hey, everybody, I mean, from the middle of the Pacific to, to the furthest reaches of the East Coast and everything in between, quite literally. Thank you all so much for your time and your questions and your energy. This has been awesome. This is my favorite part of our ID clinics, is when we take a break and we get everybody in a room and kind of share, our story and answer your questions and all of that. I desperately wish we could have done this in person. Hopefully we'll be able to soon, but you all have, my email, a lot of you have my cell phone. If there's anything you need, if you want to talk further with the students you've heard from here tonight, if there's, you want to talk to Gail Glicksman about the pre-med track, anything like that, I'm available to you 24/7 to accommodate those things. And I just hope that everybody stays safe and healthy, and that we can all get through this together. We will be back on the soccer fields. We will find a way. I have no doubt of that. And we'll be there ready to watch you guys play as soon as they open up the fields again. So take good care of yourselves. Stay active and fit. Good luck with the end of this sort of term here as you finish up. And keep in touch. Let me know if there's anything we can do for you. We're happy to help you out. But with that, I'm sending you off to bed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys for helping out. Well, I'm going to unmute. Can I unmute? No, wait. So thank you guys for helping out. Victor, you still there?
I thought he was just intensely focused on what we were saying, and here it is. He's left the room.
Right? What the hell?
What the heck?
It's probably because you said it was going to be an hour and it was 2.
It was 2.
Right? I know.
Wait, Paul, we've still got 2 people in here that aren't.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't know if they're listening. Well, the volleyball coach sat in, and she really liked it. So
I was looking for the chat feature. I really wanted to.
Didn't let John talk at all. I was watching John talk.
I told him I wanted you guys to talk, and
I don't need encouragement not to talk.
This is about you people. Don't sit here and bust my chops.
You people. Then talks for half an hour for each question.
You people.
Seriously, unbelievable.
Carlie or Logan, do you know if Jean Wolkowitz is rooming with a field hockey player?
No, I can ask her.
Yeah, I can ask.
Cool.
I'll text her.
Sweet.
I was just talking to her. What was it? Sunday? Yeah, Sunday.
Did I not
I
save
can't
her?
remember.
One of our recruits, I guess, knows her from something, and her mom emailed. So I guess she did you see she got featured in an article in the local newspaper?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we're headed to Galiftes now?
Oh, man.
Listen, I swear, if there's not a bar open by June 22nd, I'm going to be so upset because I'm turning 21 and I was